Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing our season where we're trying to get unstuck. We're trying to get some forward momentum and we're trying to help you do the same. This is the Building Better Developers podcast, also known as Developreneur. I am Rob Broadhead, one of the founders of Developreneur, also the founder of RB Consulting, where we help you get yourself unstuck technology-wise. There's a lot of stuff that's ahead of us, a lot of changes, a lot of big projects, and we help you make sure that you're doing the right thing, that you measure twice before you start to cut once, especially when it's $1 million cut. Good thing and bad thing. Good thing is technology. I love the fact that I'm able to do remote work and things like that. It is amazing. And I talk to other people that are road warriors and digital nomads and things like that. It is really interesting having the conversations about the days of desktops and 18 screens and all these different things we needed and being down to like just a little laptop and maybe like a phone or something like that. It's awesome. We live in a great time. Downside, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, is that when you are remote, when you throw down the walls and you don't have the boundaries of an office, sometimes you end up never leaving your office because now the world is not only your oyster, the world is also your office. And so downside very often is that when we end up in a situation where we just don't have we don't stop work. We're always working. We're always checking email. We're always doing that stuff. And I know I'm singing to the choir, as it were, right here. But instead of continuing on and just us commiserating, let Michael give us a little sunshine and his good thing, bad thing, as well as his introduction.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Malash, one of the co-founders of Building Better Developers, also known as Developreneur. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we fix broken systems and replace the guesswork with tested, dependable solutions. These are built around your business to hopefully streamline your processes and help your business start to grow. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, it's almost spring, almost weather's getting better, getting out finally, starting to exercise some more again, getting away from my desk, as Rob pointed out. The bad side is for 3 months now, I've been literally stuck in my office, avoiding the elements, working too much because the bad thing, like you said, with all this wonderful technology we have, it is hard to turn it off. It is hard to disconnect yourself from the business and not work. So hopefully you can put a pin in that and get ready for a wonderful conversation here. Rob, I'll let you continue.
Yes, and I'm not going to stay in the way of Adam. We are going to step in and continue our conversation with Adam right where we left off last episode. And here we go. Shifting gears a little bit from a personal, productive developer point of view, how do you see and particularly I'm thinking there's all of this like almost panic that developers will never exist anymore, or that everybody's going to be a developer. There's, as always, like you said, there's a lot of extra stuff that is poured on top of this that may not be real. How do you see it realistically? How do you see it impacting your work today and moving forward?
So let's split this into parts. How I see it, I'm to a certain extent thrilled about what to come for us as a developer, as engineers, because I would bet that Eldorado is coming, and it's already visible in some reports, because saying that AI or LLMs can replace developers just proves that people who claim that don't understand what this discipline is about. So let's be clear. Everybody, or most of the people in the Western world, can read and write more or less coherent sentences, but this doesn't create them the next King or Terry Pratchett. Everybody has a camera in their pockets, in the smartphone, that is infinitely better than cameras Kodaks 30 years ago, but it doesn't make them photographers. So there is a huge set of skills. Like I said, AI can speed up code generation, but saying that the software engineering is about writing code is a little bit like saying that writing a book of, like, I don't know, Game of Thrones is about writing words. And the part of architecture, part of identifying, I don't know, compromises, offsets, balancing requirements, identifying risks, those are skills that come with time and intuition that I would say cannot be automated. And I even recently did an interesting dig. It's available on my blog. Sorry for kind of promoting myself right now, about history of copyright and arts. And I realized, for instance, in visual arts, that Andy Warhol was literally prompt engineer. He called his studio the factory. He wasn't touching the paintbrush. He was hiring interns to do. He was just telling them what to do, and he was the artist, but just by curation and changing the context. Maybe this is something similar happening right now on a different scale. Maybe I didn't finish my thoughts yet, so I still need to think about this. But similarly is for software engineering. Yeah, we will spend less time on building software or on writing the code. We will have more time on actually designing the architecture of this software. So from my perspective, from perspective of someone who is already senior, that's good. The risk I'm seeing is for the industry itself, because a lot of companies stopped hiring juniors, which means we do not have the inflow of the people who could learn the discipline. But if you think about this, it's even worse, because that means that current mid-level engineers also don't have possibility to grow, because one of the skills required that distinguish that makes the difference between mid-level and senior is the ability to mentor, to lead the group, to lead the project. But now, if we don't have juniors, first, who will learn to be mid-level engineer? But at the same time, if we don't have junior, who the mid-level engineer could mentor to become senior? And that's why I'm saying that from senior perspective, in 10, 15 years, that will be, from my perspective, good. From some of my colleagues, probably also. From the industry as a whole, that's another term from economics, the tragedy of commons.
Yeah, it's funny. That is I really followed what you were saying there, because that is the risk, right? So we're going to lose basically the next generation of developers. We're not fostering them. We're not encouraging them, because companies are looking at AI as the replacement. We can automate those jobs in their minds. I'm already seeing that. In fact, I've read a couple articles that like lawyers are already running into this with contract writing. So like contract writing is being automated. So we're losing the legal assistants that are there to write these documents. We're seeing this in gaming. NVIDIA just put out this wonderful AI model. It's like, hey, you turn this on, look at Resident Evil 9. It goes from like this dark game to like something that's almost movie quality just by pushing a button. We're seeing the technology grow. We're seeing companies adapt it, but we're not seeing, like you said, we're not seeing their consideration of what's going to be lost if we go this direction without forethought of keeping the next generation. How are we going to sustain this long term? It kind of even goes back to like automation in farming. We have all these technologies booms. We went to automation to build cars. We have automation to farm farms, but the next generation of farmers are already leaving. Children aren't taking the mantle on to become the next farmer. So we're losing farms left and right. Do you see that potentially happening with businesses with this AI boom? You just laid out, if we're not encouraging, if we're not hiring those junior developers, those mid-level developers aren't becoming senior developers. Do you see a gap coming, or do you see a potential downshift in technology or with businesses because they've so focused on AI that you could see the companies actually start to falter because they're not quite thinking about the repercussions that are going to come to just go with AI?
Let me think about this how to answer, because I have two trains of thoughts competing right now. So yes, I see the risk. That's the tragedy of commons I mentioned, that we do not feel the. I will use the analogy from Polish, because in Polish translation it wouldn't be a tragedy of commons. It would be a common pasture problem. So, which is much more illustrative. So basically, we have a common pasture. Every farmer sends a cow to the pasture to eat some grass, and everybody is happy. As long as everybody has trained themselves how much grass their cows or sheep can eat, everything's great. But the moment when the pasture is shared between everybody, there is a temptation to take a little bit more to I don't know, speed up the growth of your cow or something. And it doesn't sound like much because, come on, it's not your resource that you're depleting. But if everybody does it, suddenly the entire group of farmers is consuming the grass faster than it could grow again. And we have a problem. This is visible in English. It's called tragedy of commons, and you can see it in, I don't know, in fishing policies, in farming, like I said, in shared currency. I don't know, euro crisis in 2008, Greece and stuff. That was exactly that. When one country was just increasing its own debt, assuming that others would pay for it, and so on and so on. So this is happening now because every company optimizes their own intake, their own benefits for a price of refueling the intake of growth of the new engineers, new skills that are required. That's one way to look at it. It's a problem. How to solve it? Honestly, I'm not smart enough to figure it out. But on the other hand, totally opposite part, which is a little bit more optimistic, is you mentioned automation, farming. That kind of reminded me about something I also recently read and wrote about. It is Jevons paradox, which basically says that when the cost of certain service or good drops, you would expect that the global consumption of this good would drop, right? And it is totally opposite. The Jevons paradox says that the moment the cost of certain service, good, or whatever resource drops, the global consumption skyrockets because it's easier to use it. For instance, with electricity, there was assumption that when the electricity cost would drop, then the requirement for power plants would drop because, come on, how many light bulbs we can have? Except when the electricity got cheaper, we found out that electricity is great to fuel, to not only to light our cities, but also to run our air conditioning, to run our we started building electronics, now cars, and so on and so on. With automation, when we invented cars, there was the assumption that the need for transportation services would drop because it's cheaper. Yeah, the entire industry, entire professions disappear, but in their place and connectivity, global connectivity exploded, tourism was created, and so on. Another example, I don't know, the computation cost. Most people don't realize that the computer itself, the name, was a name of profession. Before World War II, there was a profession called human computer. Those were people who were literally sitting in the offices and calculating, I don't know, logarithmic tables, ballistic paths, and so on. During World War II, there was between 200 and 1 million people worldwide working as a computer. So we have a quite stark example of profession that was eliminated by automation, but in its place, it created a huge industry called IT. So will this AI automation eliminate professions? Sure, it will. Does it mean that there will be less work? I somehow doubt it. Different question is if we will be able to replace some skill, if we won't lose certain skills that are needed for the project.
That's a great question, because one of the things I'm hoping to see from AI, and it's funny because Musk makes a comment that, in 10, 20 years, no one will be working that doesn't want to work. This kind of goes back to something even Tim Ferriss said in his 4-hour work week. It's like, you need an income. You need some way of making money to live. The question is, are you doing it for your passion, or are you just doing it for the buck? Are you doing it just because you need a job to have income to put food on your table? It's almost as if, and my hope here is that AI is going to allow that shift to where people that have passions, have ideas, that we're going to hopefully see a boom in innovation, or at least in like a cultural innovation, but through AI. We're going to see more cultural apps. We're going to see more, kind of like you said, with the painter, where you have all these interns and you have your curator. So I see people becoming more of a curator and AI being more of the implementer.
That definitely, that's something I strongly believe in. It's just democratizing the tools. I don't know, just like, I don't know, music creation became accessible, movie creation became more accessible through technology. AI will just help some people to materialize their vision. That's great. Of course, that also means that since everybody can do it, just because everybody can do it doesn't mean that everybody will do it properly or good. So yes, we already have explosion of average, to put it polite. So that's one thing. But at the same time, I wouldn't be too optimistic with assumption that AI will give us more time. This Jevons paradox says totally opposite, and we already see it. I don't know. In Keynes, one of the American economists, I think it is around 1930s, but don't quote me on that, predicted that in 2030, thanks to automation, work week would be reduced to 16 hours. Well, unless something really shifts in next 3 to 4 years, I wouldn't say it would materialize. And I doubt your work week shortened from 40 hours that he was talking. The nature of work just changed. And I don't know, with email, there was similar assumption, like another example, that the moment when the communication would become cheaper and easier, everything would go faster. The effect was we started using communicate more, and suddenly every decision requires email plus 10 people in CC just in case. There is even an entire term, SIA, cover your sitting place, just in case send an email. So the amount of communication exploded, and you need assistance just to get through the communication. With AI, we already see the scientists already coined a term AI brain fry, because suddenly the best performers are doing much more. They need to context switch a lot more. They need to verify much more work. And it's not they have less work on, as a whole. The work got easier, cheaper, but the overall workload actually increased. Let's be clear, tasks or feature ideas that, I don't know, 5 years ago would be at best postponed, probably said not worth it even investigating. Now, because they are much cheaper to do, they are realized and then dropped. So I wouldn't be too optimistic about reducing amount of work so that we can sit and be artistic. Everybody would just do their homework.
And I think this really touches back on the. It's interesting because it has to do with like raising and lowering prices and things of that as well, things of that nature. So I think what we see is there are thresholds essentially that we will cross, and then there's problems that are not worth solving, or we just don't have the resources to solve. But then as the cost of those resources or the number of those resources change, now we suddenly have something that makes much more sense. So if you think of it as electricity, when it was very rare, then there's only certain things you could do. You weren't going to be able to power a car with it because you weren't going to be able to plug a cord in it long enough. But then once we start figuring out how to store it better and things like that, now you've grown to a point that now there's different problems that we can solve. And I think AI is the same way. I'm honestly seeing this a lot, is that there are the things that we had to spend a lot of time on, for example, like email, spending a lot of time dealing with email. Suddenly, if you can use automation and AI and some of the tools there to reduce that time, that frees you up to do something else. So it's not, I agree 100%. It's not that we're suddenly going to not have work to do. I think we're going to change our focus. We're going to be solving, honestly, we'll probably be solving bigger and more complex problems as we move forward. We are, as so often happens, this time just flies right by. So we are just screaming along as always. And I want to respect your time and thank you for hanging out with us. It's been a great conversation. I love having people that have been in the trenches, that have seen this growth, because then you get to talk about, well, what happened the last time this cycle came through, and it helps us to talk about it and learn so that we can do better in the next cycle. For those that are out there, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you if they would like to further this conversation or read your books or anything of that nature?
Well, I would recommend just go on my website, adamkorga.com. You'll find everything there, links to you can send me an email, I will be happy to answer. You can sign up for a newsletter, you can read my blog, and of course you can find information about my books. Where in all of those channels I'm trying to dig this kind of thinking, sometimes coherent, sometimes not, that I tried to present here. And that's the best way to find me. And like I say, I'm reading everything and we'll be happy to answer any questions if somebody wants to ask.
Excellent. And there, for those of you guys listening and gals listening, there will be links in the show notes for all of this, so you guys can check that out as well. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all of you that are listening, for hanging out. You can put your pencils down now and stop taking notes for a little bit and shake that off. I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff that came out of this. Thank you, as always. Go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. Now, for those that are video people or YouTubers out there, what would be like a little bonus here? What would you I'll give you the choices, either a recommendation for developers, particularly the junior and mid-level developers that we just talked about, that are trying to they're going to have to figure out how to become seniors in a different world. They may not have the same people to mentor. They may not have people mentoring them the same, or honestly, they may not have the same job opportunities. Either what you would recommend to them, or maybe a challenge for somebody that's in that situation to say, hey, here's a way that you can pick yourself up from your bootstraps and improve your own situation.
I would say, first of all, for juniors, I would say stay away from AI for at least first year. You need to first learn to count or walk before you start running. Similarly, before you start proving, finding ways to, I don't know, optimize functions, you first need to learn how to multiply numbers. So give yourself time to make mistakes. For mid-level, I'm not sure. If I had to find something, I would probably suggest look for some open source projects and analyze codes. Analyze how other people work. Since we don't have access to it's harder to find access to get this experience in professional setup, then use a community that is welcoming for everybody. That's second thing. And third, and that's on the edge of promoting my way of thinking in books, learn from other people's mistakes. Really try to understand why something didn't work. Not from news information that, hey, end of 2025, there was quite a strong wave of incidents, especially Cloudflare had. Do not read, hey, they had a problem, they solved it, that's it. Go read those postmortems that they write, especially Cloudflare is really very thorough with clarifying what happened and how they were fixed. This is a great source of education. Understand not the happy part, happy scenario, but see how things can go bad. That's also from psychological perspective, that's one of the most efficient ways of learning. So that would be my advice. That if I had to come up with something, but totally unprepared. Maybe if I had some time, I would be able to do something more.
Well, thank you. Those are excellent responses across the board. It reminds me a little bit of a callback to a past episode we have of sometimes the best path is not the happy path, but the psychopath to learn from, is to figure out the things that just went completely haywire. And some people refer to it as chaos, as well as figuring out how to work through that and how to see how other people hit those challenges so that you can be successful when they, sooner or later, because they always do, when they will face you as well. Thanks again for your time. I want to thank you so much for coming out and for the initial technical difficulties, us getting the right Zoom links and those kinds of things going, getting this going. Appreciate your time and hanging out with us. Great answers. It was a great conversation. We will be, I think we're about towards the end of April, maybe early May at this point, where this will come out. As we get closer to that time, we will send you links. It'll come out on a Tuesday and a Thursday, assuming we don't change our broadcast movement days at all. So we'll send you a link when the Tuesday one comes out. We'll send you the Thursday, and then it will come live on that Thursday. Feel free to share them wherever you want. And if there's any questions you have, or if there's anything we can do to help you out beforehand, let us know. I'd be more than happy to do what we can to promote you and your book and just help more people, learn from the mistakes of others.
Well, right now, anything I could get to get better visibility is helpful, especially considering that the latest book was released literally yesterday, and it's very in line with what we spoke about. It is called Fuck Up Almanac, after all. But besides that, thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, and we'll reach out on LinkedIn and that, and I'll do what I can to follow and throw some likes your way and things like that, and see if we can get you in front of as many people as possible. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day, and we'll catch you somewhere further down the line.
Thank you. Have a great day as well.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.